award-winning Tennessee Wildcast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee Wildcast. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We're glad you're joining us today. We got a fun show for you. We're on the water right here in front of the MasterCraft boat manufacturing facility. So it's going to be a fun show. I'm excited to have our special guest, and we're going to talk about a little bit of partnership, and then we're going to talk boating safety. It's National Safe Boating Week, and we want to make sure we hit that home today. So with us we have Jeff Roberson, David Holt, David right there in the middle, and then LeAna Warner, the production manager here at MasterCraft. So thank you guys for being with us.
Glad to be here.
Glad to be here.
I think this might be the first time you guys have been on, right?
I've been on the past for some stuff at Fall Creek Falls,
That's
I believe.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
I was on in the past when before it was Wildcast. It was, what was it called?
Wild
something.
Okay.
It was a long time
But
ago.
Gotcha.
for both of us, first time this year.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad y'all are here. We'll have to do this again. But these guys are out on the water every year, keeping us safe and patrolling the water. And we're going to talk boating safety today. But also, I wanted to bring LeAna in with us today LeAna to talk about the partnership that she kind of came up with, and it was kind of her brainchild. So tell us about yourself real quick, LeAna, and let's talk a little bit about this.
All right, so my name is LeAna Warner. I'm the production manager here at MasterCraft in beautiful Von Orr, Tennessee.
Yes.
I am a big hunter in the winter, of course, and was at the Becoming an Outdoors Woman event at Buffalo Ridge, the muzzleloader hunt in November. Looking around, I was like, man, this would be really cool if we could get MasterCraft and TWRA partnered up. We both have safety as our top priorities on the water, and so I thought it was just a logical connection. So I'm really happy to have you guys out here, and I look forward to what we can bring to the community and to ensure that we get the word about how to be safe and how to have fun on the water. Yeah,
awesome. So real quick, the most important thing, did you harvest a deer at that hunt?
I did not.
Oh, no.
So I need to go back.
Okay. Well, we'll see if we can arrange that. Get you back out there. But I think that's a great idea. Thank you for bringing that up, or for taking charge to try to get this partnership going. You reached out to David, I believe it was, and kind of got us connected.
Yeah, he was at the Chattanooga Boat Show. I was there with my family and had the idea and kind of had talked about it with my boss here at work. And, he's like, yeah, go ahead and investigate what we could do. And so saw them at the setup at the boat show and stopped and talked to him to get a contact information and started the ball rolling.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Put her in contact with Mimi Barnes. And she's great at her job and was able to really assist with putting it all together, making it happen.
Yeah, y'all got to do a tour not long ago and check out the facility. I missed that tour, but just tell us a little bit about the boats, and then we'll jump into some boating safety. When you're looking at a MasterCraft, are we looking at bass boats or ski boats, wake boats? What are we looking at here?
Yeah, they're the world-class wake boats. I mean, they're handmade, start to finish, top to bottom. Very proud of what we do here at MasterCraft, and we're really the world-class in everything, from competitions to having boats with families.
Yeah.
So really proud to make this product and proud to promote the safety, how to use our product safely.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I think it's a beautiful boat, and your team is in charge of making sure all the finishing touches are on there, right?
Yeah, we assemble every piece of everything that goes into those boats, from the decals to the upholstery. My team also makes the trailers. Everything is done by hand here, and it's something we're very proud of.
And they go out all around the world.
All around the world.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you jumping in here. We're gonna have you back on part 2 of this show, and we're gonna talk more about the partnership and what all goes on here in this facility. So, thank you for jumping in for this segment.
We're
going to bring Matt Cameron in with us. Matt Cameron is our information and education. I said information education. That's changed. Outreach and communications coordinator in Region 4. And he's going to help us continue the conversation around boating safety. Matt, thank you for coming in here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I spent the first about 10 years of my career as a boating enforcement officer in the position that Jeff's in now, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Cut my teeth on the Knoxville waterfront and survived the Neyland Stadium debacle, so I'm here. I guess they promoted me for it. So
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we probably ought not go into that whole story.
We won't talk about that today. But yeah, so this time of year, people are on the water. It's firing up. It's getting hot. A lot of stuff's going on out there, and people need to be safe. I want to jump in. First of all, since we're standing in front of a wakeboard boat or a surf boat here, there's been some changes in the rules or in the laws about wakeboarding and wake surfing near shore banks and things like that. Will one of you touch on that and what some of the changes have been, and get that out there first, and then we're going to jump into more of the safety stuff too.
Sure. That law goes into effect July 1st of this year. So it affects wake surfing and wakeboarding boats. Basically, the law says if the waterway is not 400 feet or larger, then you cannot wake surf or wakeboard in that area. Also, if it is larger than that or wider, you can surf and wake board in that area, but you have to be 200 feet away from the shoreline as well as docks and any other type of structures.
Okay.
And 400 feet is a lot less than you
think.
You think it's a lot, but it's a lot less than what you actually think it is. You just have to do a little bit more pre-planning before you go out there and do your wake surfing and wakeboarding.
Yeah.
What's a good way to identify that distance? I mean, we hunt. We know what about 300 feet is, 100 yards.
Yeah.
What's an easy way for people to judge that?
4 basketball courts.
Either that or a football field with the end zones and then some a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
But Google Earth has great measurement tools. Like I said, with pre-planning, you can do some Google Earth measuring in the areas that you're planning on going. That way, you kind of have an idea on what your path should be for that day. And the only reason this law is coming in is just with the amount of more and more boaters we have, the amount of more wakeboarders we have, it creates possible property damage and erosion to our shorelines.
Yeah. Well, it's a great time for this partnership to kind of come together. We want people to go out there and have fun and do these kind of sports that they love to do, but it's also about being safe and respecting the other guys out there, the other people, the other docks, the landowners, that are up, in those waterways. So that's good. Another thing that we got here, got to have that personal flotation device that's U.S. Coast Guard approved, right?
Correct. You also have to have, you can't wake surf or wakeboard between sunset and sunrise.
Okay.
And that was already in the law, but they've strengthened it even more now, saying no water sports at night.
Gotcha.
So between sunset and sunrise.
And the U.S. Coast Guard approved, I know for some people, how do you know if your life jacket's Coast Guard approved? Every single life jacket on the inside of it's got a stamp from the factory that will say whether it's Coast Guard approved or not.
Why is that important? People are like, what does it matter? It floats.
There are some flotation aids that are not Coast Guard approved, and those, if the person's knocked unconscious, those flotation aids will not float them. You still have to be moving your arms and legs. So on the Coast Guard approved life jackets that we're talking about, even if you're knocked unconscious, in some type of water sports, you're still going to float even without moving your arms and legs. So that's the difference there.
Yeah, and even those Coast Guard approved jackets, a lot of them keep your head up, right?
Depending on the type, yeah, it will actually float you face up, which is very important for your life.
Yeah.
If you were to be knocked unconscious.
Correct.
And wakeboarding in particular, it can be a violent impact with the water. If you've ever tubed or done anything behind a boat, you hit the water going 30 miles an hour, it can knock you out, knock you silly, discombobulate you, or whatever the word is for that.
I like discombobulate.
Discombobulate. Actually said that, pronounced that. I'm surprised. So, yes, face up in the water is important, but those seem to be the ones that, in my experience, that people didn't like to wear because they were bulky and cumbersome.
They're a little more uncomfortable, but
so is a coffin.
Yeah, is it worth your life? That's the question you gotta.
You're
weigh.
absolutely right.
Yeah. Well, and while we're on life jackets, there's all kinds of different types. You got the inflatables now that folks like to wear. The fishermen really like the inflatables. It doesn't get in the way of casting and whatnot. And some ladies say the belt pack inflatables are good for the tan lines. I don't do the tan line thing, but those are available, but there's certain restrictions on those, age restrictions. What's that? Do you remember what the age restrictions are on the inflatable jackets?
16 and older. And if you're unsure, read the label. There actually are a few that are legal through Coast Guard certification for younger than that, but the majority of them are 16 or older. But check your label. That's what's going to give you that idea.
They are not approved for this type of activity, though, correct?
Correct.
Right.
So any type of water sports, if it requires a life jacket, it needs to be an inherently buoyant, meaning it's already got flotation, doesn't have to be inflated.
Gotcha.
Explain what wake surfing is for people that don't know what that means.
Yeah, I've never done it, but I think I've seen it.
Wake surfing, and I'm sure that some of the wake surfers out there will, would love to add more on it.
Yeah.
But it's essentially does not have any rope or anything involved. You are simply following behind, riding the actual wave or wake that's being produced by the vessel, and it's a more low-speed sport, but it inherently causes a lot of wake, which is the pleasure in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's become extremely popular over the past few years.
And so these wakeboard boats have ballast tanks in them. They actually pump lake water into them to let the boat sit lower and create a
bigger
larger wave.
Oh, okay.
Just like surfing on the ocean, you're back there surfing on that wave that your boat produces.
Okay. Wow. That's pretty cool. So, I mean, it sounds a little dangerous to me, too. But you're really close to the back of that boat. But it's an inboard engine, correct?
Correct.
And many of the inboard engines nowadays they're designed so well that carbon monoxide is still something to be thoughtful of, but nowhere near as concerning as what it was, number of years in the past.
Yeah. So main takeaways: check out this new law. Know where you can be. How far away from a residence or from a dock or from a bank. Wear that life jacket, U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket, and just be careful out there.
Be mindful of your wake. I mean, you're still responsible for your wake. Is that correct, Jeff?
Correct. Yeah. If your wake damages, even if you're outside that 200 feet, you're still going to be responsible for those damages. So try and find those areas that are less populated or where there's not a lot of boaters, not a lot of already people wakeboarding that area.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, here's a good question. Are there any significant areas that in the state that this law will not affect boaters?
They did add into that law bodies of water under 50 acres, no wakeboarding, no wake surfing.
Okay.
I don't know of any in my immediate area. The main lakes we have, the core lakes and the TVA lakes, are far bigger than that.
Sure.
But as far as the only places I see that affecting are the smaller creeks, the really narrow channels. These big main channels, far larger than 400 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And well, like I said, it just comes down to, in some instances, you might have to do a little bit more planning. And instead of surfing or skiing your way to your spot, you might just have to ride over there and then begin your activity rather than
that's great advice.
Rather than doing your activity on the way to the area.
Find the place on your lake where it's conducive, it's friendly to the shoreline, to other boaters, and then wait till you get to that point to start your activity. That's good.
And our first year on this, it's new to us too, so we're learning as we go. And the legislature put that law in effect for a safety issue and for public safety as well as property. But we are, for the first year, we're going to do a lot of education more than enforcement. So if you get stopped for that, most likely it'll just be, hey, we got to fix this. We can't be in this area anymore.
Right. Well, and talking about planning, I think about the float plan. We've said that before on the show. We hear that in the agency, have a float plan. What is a float plan? And I would say make this planning part of that.
It can be a part of it. A float plan is, it doesn't have to be a very complex, written out formal document. It could be as simple as you sending a text message to a friend or a loved one. Hey, I'm going to be here doing this for this long. I expect to be back at this time. Here's who I'm with. And it's just that way, if something happens out there to you, first responders, have a somewhere where to start, and they know who they're looking for.
Yeah.
And, and rather than having a missing persons 3 or 4 days later, we're able to get a little bit more proactive in the search.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great information, and it kind of goes along with hunting too. Have a hunt plan if you're going out in the woods. Let folks know I'm going to this WMA or I'm going to this piece of property to hunt. I will be in a tree stand. Be back by then. So that's great stuff. All right, so safety features. We all need our safety requirements on the boats. You want to cover some of that today about what's required on boats?
Yeah, every motorized vessel is required, and even some motorized required to have safety equipment. So from a kayak all the way up to use large houseboats, there needs to be a life jacket on board for each person.
Okay.
If that person's under the age of 13, they have to be wearing their life jacket. If the vessel has enclosed fuel tanks, they're required to have a fire extinguisher. The bigger the boat, the more fire extinguishers they got to have. So all that's available on our website, and we have boating safety handbooks as well. If the boat's motorized or sail-driven, has to have that registration. Doesn't fall under safety per se, but if we find an empty boat, we know who we're looking for by running that registration. What am I missing?
I was going to touch up a little more on paddlecraft. We've seen a huge increase in the amount of paddlecraft people enjoying our waterways, and it's great to see them out there, but they're required to have a life jacket on their vessel, but they're not legally required to wear it unless they're 12 and under. But we've seen, and Jeff, I'm sure you could echo me on this, we've seen a large increase in the amount of fatalities that we work across the state with paddlecraft, and oftentimes, whether they have it on their vessel or not, they weren't wearing it. The PFD.
Yeah.
And it's just like a seatbelt in the car. It's only going to help you if you wear it.
Yeah.
And then when we talk about paddlecraft, we're talking about kayaks, canoes, stand-up paddle boards, anything that's man-powered. Even your small john boats and rowboats would be considered your paddlecraft. And we see those on the main lakes as well as in the smaller creeks and rivers. It's a great way to get outdoors, go fishing and recreate, but still have to follow those safety guidelines.
Yeah. Yep, and even the inflatable ones, as we talked about before. Those inflatable kayaks and things like that.
I was going to add to your list of required equipment. If your boat's 16 feet long or longer, you have to have the Type 4 throwable device. And I never understood why that is boats 16 feet long and longer, because I saw more people fall out of smaller boats. I wish it would apply to all boats. So even though you don't have to have it in a 15 or 14-foot boat, have a Type 4 throwable device in there. And explain what a Type 4 is. People have no idea what I'm talking about.
The Type 4 it's your square throw cushion or your or the ring, the donut ring. And I often have people ask me, well, is a life jacket not good enough that I can just toss a life jacket? And I always have to tell them that no, it's not. The Type 4 throw cushions are designed and weighted a little bit differently than just your standard life jacket, to where they can be thrown with ease and make it out a certain distance, rather than a standard life jacket. It's just going to go a few feet in front of you. It's going to catch the wind, and it's going to sink, or it's going to get on the water right 10, 15 feet in front of you maybe. Whereas you can really toss a Type 4 out to someone that's in distress.
It's kind of like throwing a Frisbee versus if you throw a regular life jacket, throwing a cardboard box. It just doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
That Frisbee, you can fling it several yards.
And that does not count as a wearable
No.
device. How many times have y'all seen people try to put that thing on their back and wear it?
If you read the label, it's big, bold letters, do not wear on back. And the reason for that is if they enter the water, they're floating face down. So got to have a wearable on board for each person we talk about. And then if it's 16 feet or greater, like you said, just one throwable.
Yeah.
But they're relatively inexpensive at the store. And in my opinion, one of the more useful things you can have on board your vessel, because that's the only thing you can really chuck out to someone that could save their life.
Yeah. What's some of the most common safety violations that you see? We talked about all this equipment that you need and things that you want to make sure is on board, but what's some of the most common violations that you guys see out there that you want to drive home?
Safety-wise, that equipment now is a good time to check. It's beginning of summer. It's a good time to go through and make sure you have enough and that they're in good and serviceable condition. I mean, all the buckles buckle up, the zippers work, they fit the intended wear, so you're not putting an adult jacket on a child. After that's set all year, it might be moldy, might be torn, might have a rat's nest in it. Get through there and replace that stuff and make sure it works. We didn't cover lighting, but if you're boating between sunset and sunrise at night, check those lights before you go to the lake. Make sure they're working.
Make part of that your float plan. Yeah.
Correct.
Check all that.
Check, especially your first time out this summer. You want to go through that stuff pretty thoroughly to make sure it's all working.
Yeah. Well, something we were discussing before the show was the fire extinguisher and the onboard extinguish system. You kind of joked around, but it's not a joke. I mean, even if your boat has that extinguisher in the tank area, it's always good to have that handheld on board as well.
Boats like this MasterCraft, they come with an onboard halon system that
halon,
automatically, or you can push a button manually, but most of them are automatic. If a fire breaks out in the engine compartment, it will extinguish it. There's an onboard. It's a big fancy system. That's great if you have a fire in the engine compartment, and that meets the legal requirements for the state law. But if you have a fire elsewhere, electrical maybe under the dash or somewhere other than the engine compartment, you're going to sit and watch your boat burn because you don't have a handheld extinguisher. So it's a really good idea to go ahead and put one or two of those on your boat as well.
Yeah, $20 could save a $350,000 boat or whatever it may be. It's smart.
There's a lot of just common violations we're still on that subject.
Sure, yeah.
One we stop a lot for is called reckless operation, and it's people sitting in areas they shouldn't be going down the lake, on the very back, the swim deck, or, dangling their feet off the front. There's seating charts on these boats that says safe seating area while underway. When you're out drifting, hanging out, recreating at anchor, you can be anywhere and all over that boat. But once the boat gets underway and is going down the lake, got to get your butt down inside a seat somewhere. That's a huge violation we see a lot of.
Awesome. That's good stuff. All right. Well, just kind of on that same line, tell us how people can be safe on the water. What's, having that float plan.
Being prepared with your safety equipment. Having all children 12 and under in a life jacket at all times. They get fussy, and we understand that, but it's it could save their life. And have a sober operator, not one that's only going to have one beer. Let's keep one that's only going to have 0 beers.
Right.
Having a safe, sober operator, and that's, unless you can think of anything else, Jeff.
Yeah, I like to harp on the BUI. That's one of my passions is removing as many impaired operators from the lake as I can. Majority of our crashes are maybe not caused by alcohol, but almost every accident we work involves alcohol. Somebody in either party has been consuming. So it inhibits your judgment, your coordination, your balance, all those things.
Slows your reaction time.
You need a lot of those. All of those you need to drive a boat because you got a lot going on, just like driving a car.
Yeah, and then when you leave the water, you're in a car.
Correct.
I mean, a drunk boater is a drunk driver.
Did want to mention too, this last year the legislature actually enhanced our BUI penalties to come in line with the DUI penalties. So DUI, BUI are treated exactly the same now. The penalties are fairly extensive and just not worth that arrest.
Yeah.
One thing that always surprised me about boaters and alcohol is they just didn't see it as being dangerous as driving a car impaired. They go to the lake to unwind and have a good time, and we do, but it's a whole different beast. And you talked about all the stressors that come along with it, and there's no lanes of traffic out there. Boats are coming from all directions, so alcohol affects you worse on the water. You talked about the wave action, and it can be even more dangerous than driving a car to me. Just because I've seen it.
You expect the dangers of the roadway. We're taught that since we started driving our cars, but you don't necessarily expect the dangers of the waterway because you're out here to have fun, not to get hurt, and that's that bit of ignorance can be hurtful.
Yeah.
And a vehicle, you've got seat belts, you've got airbags, you've got all these safety things built into it. Boats don't have those. We don't have airbags. You don't have seat belts. You have your life jacket, and what goes on up here, what you do with that.
Another thing to watch out for the weather. Make sure you know what's coming, what the forecast looks like. You're out there, it's maybe sunny in the morning, but
and the one thing that worries me is when there's you didn't see it on your phone on the radar, but you got this unexpected pop-up shower that all of a sudden everybody's going to the exact same ramps, and they're not really paying attention, looking around. And at least in our area, every time there's one of those just pop-up thunderstorms, those are often some of the most dangerous times because everybody's out there at the exact same time and trying to go home at the exact same time. And it's often that folks either swamp or occupy the same spot on the water at the same time.
Yeah, and those big holiday weekends and all those people out there, those are also maybe sometimes to avoid the water, but it's that's when everybody wants to be out. They're off, and just be careful out there when it gets crowded.
I joke around a lot. If you see me going really, really fast on my patrol boat, it's either a thunderstorm's coming or it's lunchtime. I got to get somewhere to eat.
Well, let's wrap it up with education. TNWildlife.org is our website. All the classes are posted there. Information's there. But tell folks what they can expect in a boating education class, and then we'll wrap it up from there.
Yeah, so anybody born after January 1st of 1989 is required to have that license to operate a vessel. So those classes, like you said, are listed on our website. And if you don't see one that fits your schedule, check back regular because we add them constantly. But it's anywhere from a 3 to sometimes 4 or 5 hour classes. And you sit down, you go through a lot of the stuff we talked about, we go through it in depth. And they learn what to do and what not to do to keep them safe on the water, and legal things and illegal things, what you don't want to be part of.
Yeah.
And at the end of that, they test and they get certified. Certified for life. Once you get certified, you never have to retake, and you're good to go operate that vessel.
One thing I always tell folks in my class is that this class is not designed to teach you how to drive a boat. This class is designed to give you the tools to be able to be safe on the water, but there's no way you'd be able to get out there in a brand new $250,000 really fast boat and be able to be safe with it. It takes time because so many of the things that we have committed to muscle memory for driving a car they don't carry over to driving a boat. There's a lot of other factors that are so much different, and it takes time to be able to be comfortable, driving safely and efficiently without damaging your vessel.
Yeah, we can sit down and tell you how to ride a bike all day, but until you do it, that's when you learn.
Yeah.
Same thing with me.
Well, guys, I think we've covered a lot here today. I appreciate you taking time out and joining us here on the lakeside. And, I think a lot of people are going to be ready to, or at least they're educated now and they know what to think about. They can get a class if they need one, and be safe out there on the water this summer. So
thanks, Rob.
Appreciate what you do. All right, we'll see you next time. This is Tennessee Wildcast. Have a good one.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee Wildcast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.